All right, everybody, welcome to Org Charts 101, all about org charts. This is going to be the first training in a two-part org chart series. And so we are so excited to have you with us today. Today's session is going to be for folks that are new to org charts, really want to get down the foundational side of things. So if that's what you're here for, then you are in the right place. Now, before we get started, a little bit about me. My name is Paige Allen. I am a product pro here at Lucidchart, and I have been with Lucid for a couple of years now. And so in the time I've been with Lucid, I have learned a thing or two, and I'm excited to share some of my favorite tips and tricks with you guys today. That said, we will also be sending out a recording after today's webinar. So keep an eye out for that. You should be receiving it here in the next 24 to 48 hours. So if we move through anything too quickly, you can go back in your own time and watch it at a pace that makes sense for you. All right, let's talk a little bit about the agenda and set the expectations of what we will be covering in today's session. We're going to be going over two things. First, we are going to get down with the basics. So what I mean by that is we're going to go over how you can create your org chart. And that is kind of two parts. If you are wanting to start from scratch, build things out manually, great. And how can we automate that process and make it really quickly and easily to see our org chart. The second thing we'll do is we're going to talk about some tips for optimizing your view. How can you really see exactly what you want to see on your org chart, manipulate the structure of your org chart, and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can customize our chart, apply formatting, some little tips and tricks there to make things look really great, and also to gain more insights from our org chart. And then we're going to talk about some helpful hacks for keeping your org chart up to date. So for those of you that will be continually updating things, how can we make that really easy to reflect here in Lucidchart? And then our second part is we're going to be talking about some of our new release features and how we can use org charts to then gain actionable insights with one of our features called Group View, where we can easily bucket employees based on different criteria, whether that's department, location, whatever it might be. We will be covering that today as well. That said, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. I'm going to jump into Lucidchart. And let's talk about how we can initially create our org charts. Now, for those of you that are either new to creating org charts or new to Lucidchart, we have a lot of helpful templates that will kind of remove some of that load up front and help you just dive right in and get started building your org chart. So where you'll find those is you'll jump back into your documents page. So this is the initial page when you log into Lucidchart, the very first thing you will see. Now, you can access templates in two places. You'll either see them up here in the top right where it says More Templates, or you can access them with this drop down next to your plus document button. When you click that button, it will open our template gallery. Now, we have hundreds of different templates you can choose from. Today, we're going to focus on our org chart templates. So if we go ahead and click org chart, you'll see all of our different org chart templates that you can use. So I would definitely recommend taking some time to jump in here and get some inspiration. How can I be formatting my org charts? What different ways can I be using my org charts? This is a great place to kind of get that inspiration and start you off on the right foot with building your org chart. Now, these are all really great templates. How they work is when you click on a template, you will see a description over on the right that lets you know a little bit about the purpose of that org chart, what it's intended to be used for. Once you click Create Document, you'll see on the bottom right corner, that will create a new document from that template that you're then able to adjust and customize to have all of the resources in it that you need. Now, something I want to point out here, and this is true for all of our templates, is they will come with additional context on the right to really help make sure you are set up for success. So you'll see things like the data that the org chart was used from, tutorials, blog posts, help center articles, everything you could possibly need to help you create a document like this with your own information. So really great place to get started, again, for some inspiration and lifting that load initially. All right, the other options you have is you can create your org chart manually, or we can automate it. So if you're going to be creating it manually, all you'll need to do is come over to your toolbox here on the right, and we'll go ahead and click this Shapes cogwheel. Now from here, we can either search for org charts, or we can just scroll through that menu to find it. and we'll toggle on our org chart option here. And we'll go ahead and close out of our manager. Now you'll notice our org chart shape library has populated here in our toolbox, so we can get started right away building out our org chart manually. Now to do this, we'll simply click this org chart shape, drag and drop it onto our canvas, where we're able to kind of start building things out, adding more employees, customizing this as much as we would like. And I'll show you how to do that here in a minute, how to actually customize this. The other option you have is you can automate your org chart. Now to automate your org chart, you are going to need to have all of your org information somewhere in a spreadsheet. Whether that means you're using an Excel file, a CSV, a Google Sheet, doesn't matter. You can use any of those places to pull that information. I'm going to go ahead and show you an example of what that spreadsheet might look like. Now you don't have to include all of these fields. This is just for inspiration of things you might want to include. And you can have as many or as little fields as you would like, but you can include things like role, department, their email address, phone number, whatever it might be. Now maybe you're using this for things like pulling together project teams or rearranging your structure based off of tenure or certifications. Those are all other fields that you're more than welcome to add in your spreadsheet. The one thing I do want to direct your attention to that is important and essential when you are creating org charts is you will need to have a unique employee ID field. Now you can see how we've done this here. It's just a 1 through however many employees you have a list, and everybody will be assigned their own number. So fairly easily, you'll just have 1 through 35 like we have here, or through 40, or however many people you have. Now the other number that is important is your supervisor ID, and that's going to be how we identify, how Lucidchart identifies the hierarchical structure of your org chart when it is automated. So what you'll notice here is, since all of our employees, supervisors included, have a unique ID, you can pull that supervisor's ID and assign it to an employee. So for example, Norma's employee ID is 1, and Brent is reporting to Norma, so his supervisor ID would be 1, because Norma is a CEO. Does that make sense? Great. So you'll want to make sure to have both of those columns. Now, what I'd recommend doing is you can actually, you can start from scratch on this, or you can pull a example data sheet by using one of those templates. So if you want to go into the templates, choose an org chart template, you'll be able to open one of the example spreadsheets that you can then go ahead and manipulate so you don't feel like you're starting from nothing. So either way, you can start from scratch or there to create your spreadsheet. Once you've created it, fairly easy, you can either click this import data button in our org chart library, or if you haven't added that library, simply come up to File in the top left corner, Import Data, and then we're able to select Org Chart here. Now it's going to walk us through a little bit of a wizard step by step to importing our spreadsheet data. So you'll see here you can import from several different resources: Google Sheets, Excel, CSV, or Bamboo HR. We're going to go ahead and select Google Sheets today, and we'll click Next. And now it's going to open our Google Drive where we're able to search for that Google Sheet that we want to use. So we'll go ahead and type in the name of our spreadsheet and click Search. We'll select the spreadsheet we want to use, click Select here in the bottom left, and now that is going to be loading in our wizard. All right. Now the next phase is we want to let Lucidchart know how we're identifying supervisors. So this is what we were doing in that spreadsheet where we were using those employee IDs to identify a supervisor. You can also identify a supervisor by their name if you'd like. So whatever is easier for you, you have 2 options there, either that unique ID or by their name. Now once we've done that, we also want to align how Lucidchart is going to identify employees and supervisors. So in our spreadsheet, we used employee IDs and supervisor IDs. I'd recommend doing that. I think it's the easiest way to do it. And from here, we'll go ahead and click Next. Now we have a couple other fields that we'll want to match up: our name fields, role, and image as well. Now role and image are not required, and you're more than welcome to fill those in later, but definitely something that will add more information and context to your org chart. Once we've lined those up, we'll go ahead and click Next. And now we can decide, do we want our org chart to show the entire organization, Or do we want to create separate org charts by things like maybe departments or locations or whatever we'd like to separate it by? We can either create that initial large org chart or separate sub org charts. We'll go ahead and create one org chart today and select Finish. All right, now you'll notice Lucidchart has created our org chart for us, so this is great. I do want you to note it's created it on a new page here at the bottom of our Lucidchart editor. So we were initially on this tab. It didn't add our Lucidchart or our org chart to this page. It created a new page for our org chart. Now, if you want your org chart to be on the same page, really easy. You'll just go ahead and select it, use the keyboard shortcut Command-C or Command-X. We'll come back into our page we were using and use Command-V to paste that. And we can go ahead and move that org chart to being wherever we'd like it to be. So it will add it to a new tab, but you are more than welcome to add it to your existing tab if you would like. All right, so those are pretty much everything you'll need to know about the initial creating phase. You can create your org chart with a template, manually from that shape library, or you can create it automatic from a spreadsheet. Now, once you've created your org chart, the next step is we want to kind of optimize our view so that we're seeing exactly what we want to see from our org chart in Lucidchart. So let's go over two different things here. We're going to cover how we can optimize our org chart and then how we can optimize everything else that is on this page. So our canvas and some other things to kind of supplement our org chart. Now, something to keep in mind with org charts is whenever you want to edit something, you just double click. So just keep that in mind, double click to edit. Now, you'll be familiar with your toolbox over here on the left. When we double click our org chart, that is going to change to our org chart panel. So just kind of familiarize yourself with the toolboxes. That's where all of our structural editing will take place, whether that's shapes or now it's going to be our org chart editor menu. Now we have a couple options here for kind of adjusting our view. The first thing is our layout here in the top left, where we can change things like our layout style. And you can kind of play around with this, see how it looks, and decide kind of what structurally you want your org chart to look like. From there, once you've kind of selected your layout style, you can also adjust your spacing. So we have our horizontal spacing option here, where we can slide this bar and make those adjustments that we'd like. And we can also adjust our vertical spacing. So we can make it as squishy or as spaced out as we prefer. Now, maybe you want to add things like notes between your different shapes. If you want to, that might be where you'd want to really space out your employees. So just for some context as to why you might do that. All right, now once you kind of have your spacing set up the way you'd like, how do we then make adjustments to our org chart? Now you can do it in two places. You can either make adjustments over here in the toolbox. So you'll notice we can click and drag employees if we'd like, wherever we'd like to move them. We can also collapse and expand different lists of employees. And I'll just show you again, we can click and drag folks to being on different teams if we like, really easily here. Just remember, click and drag to do that. The other option you have is you can actually make adjustments on your canvas. So from our canvas, I can click and drag employees, and you'll notice these blue lines appear. That's letting you know where you're dropping those folks. So if I drag Anna up here, we can make her on the same level as Bartholomew, or we can make folks report to other folks. So really easy, just drag and drop, and you can make those adjustments on your org chart. Now, the other thing to point out is if you want to add more folks. So this is especially helpful if you're manually building out your org chart, but just click on these plus red icons here, and that will create a new team member that you can then go ahead and move around to wherever you would like them to be on your canvas. All right, now when you decide you want to exit your edit menu, just go ahead and click on this X in the top corner on your toolbox, and now we'll see our shapes again. And again, to access that again, simply double click on your org chart, and now we can see that that has appeared for us to make changes. All right, now sometimes folks will want to show relationships that aren't necessarily hierarchical. Maybe you want to see people that are working together on a project, or maybe they are good friends or whatever you're wanting to see. We'll go ahead and double click to exit our org chart menu. And now we can use just regular Lucidchart features to add things like maybe we want a line that's connecting Brent to Bartholomew. What we'll do at that point is maybe we'll come up to our properties bar and we can change things like making that a dotted line. Maybe we want to make it curved. Maybe we want to make it thicker. And we can also change things like our endpoints. Maybe we don't want to have endpoints. We can turn those off, and now we'll see that those folks are connected to each other. So some options you have as you are kind of showing relationships and building out the structure of your org chart. All right, now aside from building out the structure of your org chart, how do we optimize everything else we see here to make sure that we have kind of all the information you might need on an org chart? The first thing that I really want to point out is how we can make it look, your org chart look crisp like we have here. Now, when you initially come into Lucidchart, I'm going to come to the page settings over here on the right and scroll down to our grid. When you initially come into Lucidchart, you'll see these grid lines, and those are going to help you kind of structurally where you place things so that everything's lined up and they look nice. That said, when we are using an org chart, go ahead and turn those off. It's going to make it so you can really clarify the focus of your org chart so people aren't looking at those grid lines. It's just going to really up-level the professionalism. The other thing to point out is auto tiling. Now that is going to be turned on when you come in Lucidchart. And what that means is as you move your org chart, you will see that your canvas is going to expand, so you'll have a bunch of white space. Now if we go ahead and turn that off, you're actually going to have tiles where you're able to manipulate that and choose the exact size of your canvas so you can fit the content in a way that looks really professional. So if I move my org chart, I can then move my canvas and really fit the content so you don't have tons of extra white space. Okay, and last but not least, when we're looking at our page settings, is if you're wanting to print your org chart or kind of resize everything so it fits really nicely on your canvas, again, come to our page settings on the right, and you'll see this fit to page option. Now, when you're printing it, you might want to change things like what page size you're printing on, or maybe what the format looks like. Is it going to be a portrait print? Using that fit to page will really resize things so that they look nice and it fits the context of what you're printing on. So kind of helpful for you there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop for questions here for a second and we will continue on. All right, moving on. Another aspect of kind of setting up your org chart for success is having a title to your org chart so you know what you're looking at. And this is particularly helpful if you are going to have several org charts or org charts that serve a specific purpose other than just looking at a hierarchical reporting structure. So what I would recommend for creating a title is coming up to your insert option here. And maybe we want to say we want to look at the page name. We can go ahead and drag and drop that to the top of our org chart here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see it. So this is going to be our optimized page. Maybe you have a different page name. Maybe we also want to insert when it was last modified so we know how up to date this org chart is. We can go ahead and add that. Maybe we also want to add something like who last modified it. Really easy. We can go ahead and say the name of the person that last modified this, and we can create titles fairly easily for our org charts here. And you'll see org charts, especially in those templates, little titles that look really nice that are going to always be up to date. Now, something else that's going to really help kind of up-level your org chart is connecting it to the spreadsheet that it's pulling from. That way you can kind of go back and forth and reflect on both your Lucidchart diagram and your spreadsheet, and it's going to be kind of a really easy single source of truth for all of that information. So for example, we have a connection here that's going to pull us to that spreadsheet data. Now, how I would recommend doing this is first and foremost, let's go ahead and search for a Google Sheet icon because we know we're pulling from a Google Sheet. So we're going to come to our toolbox over here on the left. We'll click on this search icon, and I'm going to go ahead and type in Google Sheet here, click go, and we can go ahead and select images or icons. We'll go ahead and type in our Google Sheet logo because that's what we're really looking for. There we go. We can go ahead and pull that logo onto our canvas now. We can resize that however we like and place it wherever we'd like it to live. And now we're going to go ahead and come up to our Actions button in the top right corner. This is going to allow us to connect to an external link where we can go ahead and copy the URL for our spreadsheet. We'll paste it now in Lucidchart. And now we're going to be connected to that spreadsheet. So again, we can reflect back and forth between the data that's being pulled from the spreadsheet and our Lucidchart org chart. All right, and last but not least, you'll notice that as we're navigating, especially if our org chart gets larger, using those nav bars on the bottom and the right can be really frustrating. Instead, if you're using a trackpad, you can use 2 fingers just like your cell phone, and you can move around just like you would navigate on your phone. Split your fingers to zoom in and out. Really, really easy. If you're using a mouse, if you just hold down the space bar, you can click and drag. You can also use the scroll on your mouse to zoom in and out. Just make sure you have that space bar held down. All right, now I've covered a lot of features so far, and so if you get lost at any point or can't remember where any of these are, this feature find in the top right corner will be your best friend. So be sure to use that for things like maybe we want to search for our org chart import. Lucidchart is going to show us where that lives, where we can find that, so we can use those features that we covered today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop for a minute for questions, and we will continue on. All right, now once you kind of have the structure of your org chart built out, the next thing we want to do is really customize our charts to add additional clarity to either things like different teams, or maybe we just want to make it look better so it's on brand. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to customize your chart. Now, when we automatically import it, it's very flat. It's just the black and white, but we can take it next level to look like something like this, where we have things like dotted lines that represent different things, colors that represent different things, and it just looks a lot more professional. So how do we go ahead and customize things like our org chart here? I'm going to go ahead and zoom out quickly. All right, the first thing I want to point out is you can change what your org chart shapes look like. So again, remember, double click to open our edit menu here. And let's go ahead and click on this shapes option. Now we can change our shape style. Maybe we want to have photos. Maybe we don't want to have photos on our org chart. Maybe we want to have just text. You have a bunch of different options you can check out here. Additionally, we can turn photos on and off, and we can upload photos here if you have like them saved, or you can use our URL field. Now, if you have them saved on your computer, you can upload as many as you would like. Just make sure that the name of your file contains the name of your employee, and that will be a very easy way to match those photos to the correct employees. So if you have all those photos saved to your computer, just make sure that the names are associated the same on your spreadsheet, upload all of those, and Lucidchart will do the heavy lift for you. All right, so that's how we can kind of adjust what our different shapes are looking like. And I'm going to zoom in again so you can see those options. So remember, select the shape, come up to our shapes options here, and we can change our different styles. Something else I want to point out is we can adjust our individual employees. So all the changes we've been making have been to our org chart as a whole. Maybe we want to change the shape for just one employee. We can absolutely do that. We can also adjust other things for that employee specifically here. So something to point out, if you want to have maybe your VPs look a little bit different, you can definitely do that. Now, something else that you can do to adjust the depth of your diagram is you can come to our shapes option button here, and you can adjust the employee fields that are showing up. So these are the fields that are associated on your spreadsheet, so you can see as much information as you'd like. Maybe you want to see their phone number or their location. You can also reorder these by clicking and dragging. So remembering that Lucidchart is really a drag and drop tool, very easy to go ahead and drag and drop and reorder those fields. We can also turn them off at any time very easily. Now, when you're actually clicking a specific employee, you can manage their fields as well. So let's say you're looking at the salary for everybody, but you want to turn that off for your executives. You can go ahead and turn those off here in this Manage Field column. All right, now when you're editing text, very easy, either double click to edit text here on the panel on the left, or you can double click to edit text here in your shape box. So we can say, maybe you want to change Brent to being the SVP of sales, just double click to edit that. So something to just kind of remember in Lucidchart, anytime we're editing anything, just double click to edit text, double click to edit our org chart, double click. All right. Now you can change your formatting of your text. So we can go ahead and say, maybe we want to have our location bolded. We can go ahead and double click that field. We can bold that field. We can italicize it. We can change the color of it. You can make all of those adjustments with the properties bar at the top. So if you want to adjust your text formatting, just go ahead and double click to adjust that. You can also adjust the alignment of your text. So we can select our shape as a whole, come up to our alignment. Maybe we want it all to be aligned on the left. Totally fine. You can make those adjustments there. Additionally, you can select your org chart as a whole, and we can make alignment adjustments so that everything's aligned on the left. Okay. Now, last but not least, how can we format things like colors? We looked at how we can format the color of our text, but maybe we want to change the color of our shapes. Very easy. Just simply select the shape you want to edit. You can come up to the properties bar. Maybe you want to change things like the fill color of your shape, or maybe you want to change the line style. Maybe you want it to be a dotted line. You can make all of those adjustments here at the properties bar at the top of your screen. Now we can set this as our default shape style. So now it's going to apply to all of our shapes in our org chart very easily. We can also make adjustments, like let's say we decided we want to change this back to being a white. We can right click, we can copy style, and we can right click and paste style as well. So just ways that you can kind of quickly and easily customize your org chart. Now, another little hack for mass formatting your diagram. Let's say you want to change all of your lines to being dotted. If you go ahead and select your org chart, we can come up to our select menu in our file menu at the top of the screen. We'll go ahead and say select, and we're going to select all of our lines. And now we're able to adjust those. Maybe we want curved lines in our org chart. Maybe we want them to be dotted. Maybe we want them to be black. We can quickly and easily make those adjustments there by using that select option. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop for questions quickly, and we will continue on. All right, let's talk a little bit about now collaborating with our org charts. Maybe we want to work with a coworker and we make some adjustments on our org chart. Perhaps we move Shayna up here. Oh, forgot, gotta double click your org chart. Maybe we wanna move Shayna to reporting under Irwin. Now, maybe I need to ask my team what their thoughts are of this change. What we can do is we can right click on Shayna and select add comments. At that point, I can @mention anybody. Maybe you want to @mention Angie and say, what do you think of moving Shayna here? And click comment. Now, Angie's going to get an email notification letting her know she's got a comment in Lucidchart. Now, the really cool thing is she'll probably come into this first page, and especially if you have an org chart with tons and tons of employees, maybe she can't quickly and easily identify where that change happened. All she has to do is come over to our comment button here on the dock on the right, click on that pin locator, and it will take her directly to Shayna where she can see what changes were made. The other option you have for leaving comments is you can right click on Shayna, select add notes, and we can add notes for Shayna. Maybe we want to have a job description or additional context for Shayna here. So now we'll see that we have notes associated and a comment, and we can leave context on Shayna there. The other option you have is maybe you want to have notes within your different employees so that we can turn them on and off. So what we'll do then is we'll come up to our shapes option on the toolbox on the left, and we're going to come down to our employee fields. And maybe we want to add a field that is called notes. We'll go ahead and turn that on. And maybe we also want to make sure that the labels turn on so we can see where those notes are. Now I can come in and double click, and I can add notes for Shayna directly on her contact field. Now what's cool about adding them that way is at any point I can come in and I can turn that off So maybe we don't want to see notes because it's too much information, and we can turn it back on at any point really easily. So really helpful for kind of collaborating and adding additional context to your org chart. All right. Now we've done a lot so far. So far we've been able to create our org chart. We automated it really easily from our spreadsheet. We went in and we adjusted the spacing so everything was exactly how we wanted it to look. We changed things like adding photos, different fields to our org chart, and then we customized our org chart so we could see additional context into things like projects teams or adding dotted lines for whatever we'd like. Last but not least, we want to talk about how we can maintain our org chart. Now, once we've made all of these different adjustments, now what do we do? So we'll go ahead and double click on our org chart, and we will come up to our Manage Data button here. Now, if you've made changes in your spreadsheet, you can easily replace your data set. And so all of your formatting will persist and remain the same. It's just going to replace the data on your org chart. The other option you have is you can export as a CSV, where we can see all of the different changes we made. And we can go ahead and see maybe if we added a new employee, if we removed an employee really easily. We can identify that here. We can go ahead and download that data as a CSV and update our org chart spreadsheet, or we can just look at the fields that were changed and come into our org chart spreadsheet and update those fields here in our spreadsheet. So really easy for kind of keeping things maintained, up to date, and ready to go. All right, now we've covered pretty much the basics. You should be familiar with everything you need to know to get started building out your org chart. So let's get a little glimpse in how we can kind of see beyond that and gain some insights from your org chart. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into an org chart example we have here. Now this is an org chart where we have assigned different folks to teams. You can see those teams are signified by the different colors on our org chart. Now, although it's really easy for us to gain those insights quickly looking into our org chart here, it still is a little challenging to kind of see how many people are on your team because you're looking across the wide span of our org chart as a whole. So what we can actually do here is we can select our org chart, again, double click to open our menu. We'll come over to Layout, and we're going to create a group view. Now this is going to allow us to bucket different employees based on criteria. So we're going to go ahead and select Next here. We're going to choose our fields. So we want to see things by our different project teams, and we want to keep that conditional formatting so we can see those different colors. We'll go ahead and select Create Group View. And now Lucidchart is going to automatically bucket those employees. So now I can quickly and easily see all of those folks and what team that they are on. And the cool thing here is this is so flexible. So again, if I want to add things like I want to see additional context here, I can add those fields to our group view. We can also change our group view. So maybe I want to see folks based off of location. I can make all of those changes really easily here to gain additional insights into our org chart beyond just the structural changes. Okay, now that is primarily all the content that we had prepared for you guys today. Join us in our next webinar for Org Charts 201, where we're going to be diving even further into how we can gain more from our org charts. We'll talk about things like how we can overlay additional data, how can we filter employees based on certain criteria, and a bunch of other formatting options like applying conditional formatting. So how can we see beyond just the hierarchical structure? We also have a bunch of resources you can check out. So definitely check out some of our live upcoming webinars. We've got our Lucidchart Training Hub that you should have access to, where you can navigate through a bunch of different training flows. And then of course, always check out our YouTube playlists. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure to go over org charts with you, and we hope to see you next time.